I can't believe I haven't already made a video on this because it's one of my favorite charts of all time. It is Quality Control by Chief Skittles. It is very good. Before we get into it though, let's look at this comment from Ralph on my last video, who said, maybe you could do a video on the topic of mod your pads well. I never know whether my pads are good enough or whether I just suck. I'm just okay at the game, and I bet a lot of people wish they had a good player like yourself to come by and help get the pads just right. I'm pretty happy with my home modding, but ultimately, right now I'm playing on Tommy's pads, and most of the modding is actually done by him, and then what I did was I added layers of tape on top of that to make it work, but I'd say 90% of the modding is his. In an ideal world, Sujit's modded a lot of pads. If we could just have one Sujit, we could clone him and have one Sujit in every city. That would probably be the ideal situation for everybody, but that's not possible as well. So I could make a video on the topic of mod your pads well, but I feel like it's been done a lot. There's a lot of written guides for it too. And the biggest problem is that modding is super personal to the player and the form. Something I've talked about with Keon is that there's kind of like a chicken and the egg situation between modding and your form. The way I've talked about it is that you need to pick one to establish first, and then let the other adapt from that. So for me, I'm really confident in my form. I think it's really consistent. So I mod my pads around my form. If you're someone who's kind of a developing player and you're not 100% confident on your form yet, you should mod your pads to the best of your ability, and then adapt your form around that. Just make sure that you can fundamentally do everything that you need to, and then just adapt to your pads rather than touching them up all the time. In terms of making a video of modding your pads well, I think it's scary. It's really subjective because for those reasons I said before, a modding that works for one person is not necessarily going to work for someone else. So I could make this video, and someone's going to kind of claim that I've misinformed people because something that worked for me didn't work for them. So the best video I can make is maybe one where I am clear upfront about how the modding that I'm about to present is biased to me. Otherwise, another video I can make is maybe things to look for when you mod your pads, and maybe pros and cons of trying different things. But I don't want to make a video called mod your pads well just because of the possibility for someone claiming that something just didn't work for them. So that's my opinions. Anyways, I want to talk about quality control. I'm going to talk over it first, and then kind of run through things after. As for reasons why this is one of my favorite charts of all time, this is one of the first charts. Well, first of all, I was introduced to this chart in Rumble in the Prairie 11.5, and let's see. Introduced to this chart in Rumble in the Prairie 11.5. It was released in Skittles Selection 7, and I think it was one of the first charts I played where I really felt like it was just the perfect fusion of tech, of hybrid tech, of kind of really fluidly transitioning you from one tech into another in a way that feels really, really good with the song. So here has foot switches into crossovers into brackets, and it always hits the slams with the song. This crossover with that accented note, it's just so good. And every accent hits on a bracket. The slowdown is very appropriate, no bass. And this chart actually features a quarter speed slowdown. So whereas a lot of charts do slowdowns by just cutting the BPM in half once, this one cuts the BPM in half twice. So the slowdown goes to 44 BPM. This chart just feels so good to play. The song is hype. It's long. When I'm playing this section, my eyes are on the receptors, and I'm playing almost entirely orally. That little stream there has a gap in it. Shoutouts to Oliver. I'm pretty sure everybody who's sight read this chart has tried to stream through it. In fact, at 11.5 for RIP, in the upper division, there are more people sight reading this pack at the tournament than I maybe expected. And this is one of those charts where if this ended up in my draw, dude, I could have caught someone really off guard and beaten someone I shouldn't have. Same with like dead music. This ending is pretty tame, but there's some crossovers that are a little bit harsh. At this point, the chart's over. There's just a little quick 16th note thing at the end, but then it's done. Boom. All right, back to the beginning, and hopefully my drawing setup is correct now. The beginning doesn't have too much going on. There's some crossovers and some forced double steps. And the brackets are pretty easy, so they're all like quarter notes or eighth notes. Like this is a crossover, but it's not a big deal if you don't do it. Okay, here's the first pattern I want to look at. I'm pretty sure the correct way to do this pattern is by doing this as a jump. So left, ooh, I should go do it somewhere where you can see it. Left, right, here. Since your right foot is preoccupied with the down arrow here, then that frees up. Hello? That frees up your left foot. Your right foot's occupied here. This bracket then is hit with your left foot. This pattern happens one more time at the end. So every time you see that, do this as a jump, and then do this as a bracket. Another thing that'll be relevant later is like these brackets always have other things that are coming after it, right? So when you hit those brackets, I've said this before as well, but you want to make sure you're relaxed and just treat them as you would any other step. So make sure that when you step on it, that you're lifting your foot back up so it can be ready to play other notes. If you slam into it, your foot's going to be stuck like on the panel, and then you have to kind of like manually manufacture this lift to step back up, versus if you're just walking along and keeping it alternating. So definitely don't force out those brackets. Keep your feet moving the entire time in that eighth note pattern. Definitely stay relaxed. The chart hasn't even started yet. The real stuff is coming. Okay, I'm gonna try this for the first time. Let's try to watch this slow down. So this is a foot switch. You're gonna see double downs and double ups, or double ups and double downs, kind of back and forth. It is possible to do those as jacks, but the intended way to do it is with foot switches. As you can see, there's a double up here, right? So this is left. I'm going backwards, left, right. The mine, as usual, Chief Skittles is good about this. The mines will cue foot switches always, so definitely have some faith in that. Yeah, that was a bracket. I guess here your right foot is stationary, right? When you do this, this is your left foot. If you have good form here, your left foot's kind of gonna be hitting this. Don't think about moving, because this is gonna be a bracket with your left foot as well. Left. Don't think about moving your foot so far to the left when you go from the up arrow to the up left bracket. Just think of it as your toes are going to stay in the same place. Think about whether you put a nail, what it would be like if you just put a nail through this part of your foot, and then just have that be the pivot point and rotate your heel over to the left arrow. Does that make sense? Left foot's here. Should I draw a pad? I tried to do this in another video and it just looks so stupid. Bear with me. Your toe is here. Here's the pivot point, right? And then you just kind of rotate your heel over to that spot. That was really bad, you know? Just never let me draw pictures like that again. Okay, this is another thing I wanted to talk about. This fast crossover. The one thing to notice is that this crossover actually starts on the 16th note, not on the quarter note. So just make sure that you're not turning early. That's a mistake I've made before. Usually when you've seen crossovers like this in easier charts that demonstrate this exact pattern, this note has kind of been shifted up one. So just make sure you're not starting the turn here. You want to make sure to get to this note first on the left, and then make it all the way over. When you hit this pivot point here, it is not on a downbeat. So just pay attention to that. I'll have more advice on crossovers later. More of those double up, double downs. My other advice here, there are crossovers that come up here. We'll play this full speed. Here. My advice is that when you hit that crossover... Oh, how do I pause in time? Okay, so this pattern is... I always lose my cursor here. But this pattern is right, left, right, crossed, left, and this one is on your heels. Left, heel. When you get to that left crossover, it's kind of the same thing I said about the brackets, where you just need to make sure to keep your feet moving and floating at all times. Definitely, when you do this turn, don't slam your heel into this note and then feel like you have to get stuck there. You want to hit the pad in a way where your foot is popping back up off of it, because the pattern doesn't end there. There's notes that come after, right? So yeah, just maybe watch my form here when I do this. Here. My feet kind of like stay moving. Yeah, it's kind of like bouncing off of the panel instead of being too stiff. Yep, same pattern here as I was talking about the crossover before. This crossover does not start on a downbeat. Normally you would expect it to be shifted up one, so just be wary of that when you're playing this. The same crossover pattern is going to come up here. So this is the same, it's actually mirrored, right? I think it's mirrored. There's some sort of, wait. Oh yeah, this is mirrored in a way. I think it's vertically mirrored. So this is going to be right, left, right, left. But the difference here is that you're rotating the other way. Instead of doing a cross under, you're doing a cross over. So this is the left foot with your toes. But same deal here, where you want to make sure that once you hit this note, you have to be aware that there are other notes that are coming after it. So you want to stay light. You want to stay floaty. Floaty is the best word I can use to describe it. It's more about thinking about hitting the panel in a way where you're pushing your foot, you're lifting your foot back up and getting some bounce out of it. Rather than hitting it and being planted there. You know what I mean? Let's back up a little bit and see that. See, here's that little kick. Yeah, so I'm just staying light through it. I don't think this section has anything too crazy. pretty fundamental. Just get good at reading slow and listen to the music. Okay, when it comes to here, just learn the rhythms. I just use... When I'm looking at this chart, I'm mostly just looking at the screen to understand what arrow or what order the arrows are coming in. But I'm using the music to decide when to hit the notes. And it's one of those things where I had to play this song beforehand to know what the rhythms are. I don't know how other people approach slowdowns. That's my approach. And then what I'm doing is I'm keeping my eyes on the judgment to be aware of whether I'm in time or not. I think the more common advice is when things slow down to move your eyes up more towards the receptors. The idea is that if the point of the game is for you to wait for the arrows to line up with the receptors to press on it, then you should look at that. It's reasonable to me. I think I did the turns here, but I don't always do the turns. Let me talk about how you could do this. If you decide to do this as a double step, so that would be left, right, right. Think about the intended footing, right? The intended footing is that you do this as left, right, left crossed over, and then right, left, right, left. Look at this chunk here, right? Right, left, right, left. Remember that pattern? If we want to maintain this, left, right, or, yeah, right, left, right, left. If you want to maintain this, and then you end up... Ooh, I did that wrong. And then you end up double stepping this. That was the worst L I've ever written in my life. If you end up double stepping this, it actually resolves pretty well if you just start this pattern on the right. If you do this as a crossover, then it's nothing you have to think about. But this is like some of the things that people who double step think about is, if I double step here, what do I have to do to get myself back to normal? And in this case, it's starting this down arrow on a right. Okay. There's a gap. It's hard to see. There's a gap between here and here. And maybe we should go into arrow vortex. Do I remember the correct keybind? Yes, I do. Let's scroll through this. So this is kind of in two chunks. It's here. One, and then a group of 5. So here's a group of 7, right? Here's a group of 7, and then a group of 5. Oh, I forgot to clear out the circles here. That's the rhythm, and it's kind of the same thing I said before, where I'm just using the... I'm using the arrows here to just tell me what order I have to play the notes in, but ultimately, I'm not reading 44 BPM like 64th notes or whatever this is. I've already understood what the rhythms are beforehand. And I recommend if you want to do well on this song, you should probably do the same thing and understand what rhythms are coming at you before you play it. But yeah, but there's definitely a gap here. I should slow it down. And now it's a triple half speed. Oh yeah, that's so crazy. Chaka 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 dump, baka chaka bump. Bucka ducka ducka bum, bucka bucka bum. And then this is just like the intro. This bracket thing comes up again. Just do this as a jump, and then this second note is a bracket. We've already talked about that. Yep, this part's just like the intro, and then it takes you into the ending. Man, I've already been talking for 20 minutes. That's crazy. I gotta get to bed. Okay, this turn that's coming up. I've talked about this in Zephyr as well, but if you wait too long to start this crossover, if you hit this note first as a left, and then wait to hit this note before you start turning your body, it is too fast for you to turn, 90 degrees in this amount of time. So what I recommend is you should actually hit this note, and you need to start turning your body from here. So that way when you hit this first note, your body is like somewhat turned. I think if we go frame by frame, you might be able to see me do that. Yeah, you can see that when I hit this down arrow, my foot is actually kind of already angled out. So it's showing that I've already started turning my body. And it's something I'm ready for. I think another way that people do this, even smarter, so this is on a right. Where here? This is on a right. Since there's a lot of space here, I have also just seen people do this double stepping. Because this is a lot of space, right? So it's actually not too big of a deal to double step this large amount of space. And then when it comes to the pattern that comes after, they're hitting this as... Oh, why did the video enlarge? Hello? Instead of... So they end up hitting this right, left, right. And then you actually resolve yourself by double stepping again for this next note to hit this as a right. I prefer to do the turns. They're a little more brain dead. If you do decide to do the turns, same thing as I said before, just make sure that you start turning your body ahead of time and you know where those crossovers are. So starting here, already start turning your body to hit this with the left. And maybe slow it down so we can see this. Yeah, so I'm already turning. You get some candle crossovers here that are pretty fast. Dum. Advice with those crossovers is that... Ooh, come on. I gotta get better at this pausing game. I'm not very good at this pausing game at all. Okay, advice with this crossover is that... So finally, we got the crossover that actually starts on the downbeat, which is awesome. This is a right, and then this is a right. This one, in this case, is hit with your heels. When you hit the opposite end here, you need to hit this in a way where you're going to push yourself back in the other direction. Because if we think about this as kind of going one way and then back, this is kind of the peak, right? Or like the climax of that turn. So you need to start going back in the other direction, the other way. I guess I don't know, is this awkward to step away? It's kind of like if you wanted to change directions, right? When you're walking, you have to step in a way where your foot is going to push you back in the other direction. Push. Was that too extra? I don't know. But it's definitely easy to spin your body so violently, especially at 175 BPM. It's really easy to spin your body violently in a way where you kind of lose control at this peak. So definitely make sure you're knowing where the direction changes and making sure to get back to where you started. Is that okay to double step? Gotta get past. Yeah, I think with this, I also do the turns. This is going to be your left here. Oh, drew the wrong letter. There's your left here. This is crossed over on your right with your heels. And then this is actually still crossed over with your left played on your toes. So this is kind of like a crossover. It's like a syncopated Scooby pattern or a lateral. Just know that you're going to be facing sideways longer than you think, and just let it happen. Okay, where are we? So starting here, yeah, you're turned for quite a while, but then it resolves. Same concept here I was talking about with that quick turn. That's just 3 notes. When you see this 3 note coming up, you hit this note and you need to already start turning. Don't wait until you get to this right foot. Don't try to turn in this amount of space. It's not good. Use this full amount of space to turn your body, and it's going to be way more comfortable. And you can see me slow this down. Same thing. My body is like already rotating. So that way when I hit this down arrow, my body's already turned like almost to 45 degrees. It makes the turn a lot easier to execute when I start it kind of like already halfway done, rather than facing forward entirely and trying to whip my body over to this arrow. There's that sharp candle turn again. Just make sure you know where the... Ooh, it happens a lot. It really does happen a lot. I feel like a lot of the end for me is just knowing where the turns are ahead of time and just not being surprised by them. Turning early so I'm not caught trying to do a turn in like a 16th notes amount of time. The order that these things come up is pretty consistent too. The 3 note first, candle, 3 note, not yet, candle, here's the 3 note, candle, 3 note, candle, yeah. I think the end is normal. Just don't get surprised by this either. Thank you, Trevor. Oh, shoutouts to Squeens, actually, for playing this on his stream and reminding me that this song existed. I feel bad for... I don't know, it feels weird to like have a favorite chart of all time, but then like forget about it every once in a while. I feel like I need to write like a list of things you're grateful for, you know, that you should read every morning just to be grounded. You know, thankful for food, thankful for the shelter above my head, thankful for family and friends, thankful for quality control, no CMOD, and thankful for alone intelligence. It's good to wake up to these things and remind yourself why being alive is so great. Quality control. That's all I have to say about quality control. I'm glad I could talk about this for like almost half an hour. Did I say this in the last video? If people are too annoyed by these long videos, let me know. I get a little subconscious about it because I don't get a lot of comments on these videos as of late. Other than the one where I asked about people's backgrounds and getting into ITG. There was a lot of responses on that, and on Discord, and on Twitter. So, other than that, thank you for my very almost too thorough analysis of how to play quality control. I'll catch you guys next time.